It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something you play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Hello there and good morning. It is Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're set to talk Michigan sports for the next hour here on the radio. And we're going to have a good time doing that because it's Detroit basketball in the NBA playoffs. We'll preview and discuss the wildcard round series that the Pistons are going to have against the New York Knicks. Not an impossible challenge, but certainly an uphill climb. We'll discuss that. The Detroit Tigers, who are leading the Central Division, doing some pretty good stuff. Still some room for improvement, though, coming off of a series loss against the Milwaukee Brewers on the road. We'll also touch on the NFL draft because, hey, that's next week. All that and more, plus our picks at the end of the show. We'll get to it here very, very soon. But first, DJ, how's it going, man?
Oh, I could complain, but there's no reason to do that. It's spring. The weather is finally starting to break for us. Lacrosse is going okay. It could be worse. And I'm really pumped, honestly, for something that we'll get into later in the show when we get around to picks. But Michigan lacrosse is having a great season as well.
For sure. Not a whole lot going on my side of things. Just, hey, let's get through WrestleMania weekend. Let's get through my girlfriend's graduation the weekend after that. And then we'll see what happens from there. Hopefully some exciting things heading into the summer around here, but we'll see. Let's get right into it. The NBA playoffs are getting started tonight as you're listening. We still have to wait a whole day for us as we're recording. But tonight, the Pistons will be on the road to take on the New York Knicks in game one of the NBA playoffs. Pistons picked up a win over New York not too long ago. Knicks are going to want to get that one back and not give the Pistons too much hope. I think that's probably the number one thing that the Knicks could do that could really derail the entire playoffs. Give the Pistons some hope and the belief that maybe they can indeed pull this thing off. But that being said, the Knicks have opened as a 7.5 point favorite in this game. Certainly no easy task. They opened as a 6.5 point favorite, and that has grown to a 7.5 point favorite for the Knicks. What's got to happen here for the Pistons? Like it's I don't want to make it sound like, it's impossible, but it is a uphill battle. The Pistons are the underdog in this series, and the way that these things work, there's not enough home games to take advantage of, an LCA situation where you can take over that way. You've got to beat New York in the Garden at some point. So what do the Pistons have to do to pull that off?
All right, bro. This is going to sound crazy, but hear me out here.
That's what we're here for.
I don't know.
That's sports radio.
I don't know that the Pistons are really all that much underdogs. We talked a lot about them, playing the Pacers or the Bucks and like how that might be better because they're more familiar with those teams and they seem to be a little more fit for those teams. But we didn't really talk about the Pistons and their play against the Knicks this season. Their first game against the Knicks was rough. The Knicks beat them by 30. Yep. And it was a home game for the Pistons. I mean, absolutely smacked them around a Little Caesars Arena. But then just a month after that, the Pistons went into Madison Square Garden and came out with a 9-point lead. And then a month after that, the Pistons went back into Madison Square Garden and won again by 5. And then 3 months after that, they invited the Knicks back in right toward the end of the season, and they beat the Knicks by 9 at home. They're 3-1 against the Knicks in the regular season series. That tells me that the Pistons can not only hang with them, but they have everything they need to beat the Knicks. Now, I'm not saying it will happen. We don't know what this Pistons team is going to show up like in their first playoff run. Majority of these guys on the Pistons have never played in the playoffs. If we want to go down like the playoff players, it's Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Malik Beasley. Guys who were not here before. Who the guard they just traded for, Dennis Schroeder, I think no.
Yeah, Schroeder's been to the playoffs.
Yeah, and then Dennis Schroeder. Those are the 4 guys on this team that have been to the playoffs. Everyone else on this team is pretty much new to the NBA or has never been there. So there isn't a lot of experience there versus the Knicks. Those guys are perennial guys in the playoffs. They've been here before. They know what it's like. That's going to be the one thing that we don't know is how the Pistons will show up. If they show up ready to play playoff basketball, they could shock a lot of people in the world. Maybe not me, but a lot of people in the world and end up winning this series because they match up well with the Knicks.
And I think that's what just being reasonable, I think that's what a lot of Pistons Pistons fans want to see. They want to see the Pistons come out fired up. They want to see the Pistons take advantage of a team that they, as you pointed out, have a 3-1 record against in the regular season, pick up a couple wins, and hopefully win this series. Like, going beyond that is, now you're starting to ask a lot out of a team that is not experienced in the situation. Who was it that said it? Was it Imagine Dragons or AJR said you had to have high hopes for a living? Like, you got to dream big to achieve big dreams. So it's certainly plausible that the Pistons can go on much further beyond the Knicks. But first, you got to get past the Knicks. And they've shown in the past that they are capable of doing that. I think a big thing that goes along with what you're saying, like, all the guys that you mentioned who have played in the playoffs before, maybe minus Schroeder, huge parts of the revival in Detroit basketball. But I think this whole series comes down to Cade Cunningham. Like, if your superstar comes out and balls out immediately, because he's the guy, right? He's the superstar. He's the guy you lean on. He's the points getter. He's the assist guy. He does everything that you expect out of a superstar point guard. If he's the guy that comes out on fire, then the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. If he shows immediately that he is playoff ready, he is that type of superstar, he is a championship caliber type superstar, that changes the perspective of everything from underdogs who haven't been here before to, y'all better watch out. That's the team you don't want to play in April.
Weirdly, I'm going to say no. I think it comes down to the third options and the role players. I think Cade Cunningham is going to come out and do what Cade Cunningham has done all year. He's going to be great because that's what Cade Cunningham does. That's what stars do. They show up, right? The other side, I'm expecting Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns to show up. That's what they do. But what are the second, third, fourth options going to do for the Pistons? What are the third, fourth, fifth options going to do for the Knicks? And how does the bench play for these two teams? That's going to make the difference. The stars are going to come out and do them. Jalen Duren is going to come out and get a double-double. That's what he does. Cade Cunningham is going to come out and put up a double-double or close to it. That's what he does. But what is everybody else going to do? Is Malik Beasley still going to hit 3, 4, 5, 6 threes a game? Is, Ron Holland and Ausar Thompson still going to be able to play high-level defense the entire playoff series? Like, those are the things that are really going to matter for this Pistons team, not the level of play that you're expecting from your top two players.
Agreed, in the same vein as if Cade falters in the playoffs, like, then everything you just said just doesn't happen. It's kind of my point, because when a guy has a lot of expectations and he hasn't had an opportunity to fulfill those expectations, then there's that sliver of doubt. And I'm not saying that I doubt Cade Cunningham. I'm saying there's plenty of people who do, and there's plenty of people that are wearing orange and blue in New York that are hoping that that Cade Cunningham is the type of superstar, because we've seen plenty of guys like this throughout the years across multiple sports who get to the postseason and all of a sudden they ain't got it anymore. So it's not necessarily from a standpoint from me that I don't think Cade can. I think Detroit fans just want to see that happen. Like, put that into reality. Cade Cunningham is just as good in the postseason as he is in the regular season. And the rest of that stuff kind of takes care of itself, I think. If he's dishing out to guys who are open and they're nailing their shots, then great. You know what I'm saying? If he's the guy running the show on the scoreboard, then great. Like, that's exactly what you want. It's what you expect, but it's also what you need, especially if you're, because let's face it, like, if Cade is just run-of-the-mill Cade and not, hitting the superstar marks that you're used to, then it doesn't matter that Jalen Duren puts up a double-double and handles Karl Anthony Towns in the paint. Like, because there's other aspects to the game that could break open against Detroit. So Cade Cunningham has to take care of business for the rest of the stuff to take care of itself. I'm confident that he can. I just think Detroit fans want to see that happen. Is there?
I'm more than confident that man averaged like 28.5 points per game against the Knicks. Like, if there's one person I'm not worried about, it's him. Yeah. I think that fans need to, and also I think even if he does falter, I think people need to stop looking at superstars to be the all. Because if that's all you have, teams are going to single in on that and they're going to take them out. Yeah. So once again, the play of everyone around that superstar is important. If Cade's having a bad game, but 3 other people can make up for what he was supposed to do, the Pistons are in a great spot. Don't worry so much about Cade. Worry more so about what you can get to supplement around him.
That's fair.
So we're in the same boat.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We're just looking from different lenses.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure. Is there anything else that kind of stands out to you about the NBA playoffs? I mean, we're in a national discussion now when it comes to this. We were joking beforehand. The Lakers seem like they have a pretty easy path to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah. Just quickly before we get the break, I'm interested to see how good the 1 seeds do. I think the Cavs and Thunder are both actually very good, even to be as young as they are. They had phenomenal seasons this year. I think the Nuggets got a great pull in the Clippers, and they're going to be a team to watch for as they've started to heat up at the end of the year. The Lakers seem to have a cupcake walk into the Western Conference Finals at the least. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then the bottom half of the Eastern Conference is interesting. The Magic can make a run if they decide to like really play some good ball. And then it's going to be a mosh fest. Like those 4 teams, any of the 4 could win. I could see Boston absolutely cruising, but I also could see them struggling against, maybe the Knicks or the Pistons and one of those teams getting an upset, quote unquote. But I honestly think this might be one of the more chalky years where we see a lot of higher seeds kind of make it through.
I could see that, but I could also see some of these lower seeds surprising, man. Like you said, the Magic and the Celtics is a crazy good 2-7 matchup in these playoffs. The Pistons can make a lot of noise. The Bucks are the 5 seed. They can make noise. They handled business against Detroit in those last 2 games of the year to solidify themselves with that 5 seed. The Clippers are solid, and I don't think you can sleep too much on the T-Wolves. It's just the fact that they're not going to get past the Lakers. The Lakers are too powerful. I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see how those young teams at the top contend with some of the more experienced teams that are towards the middle. Plus other teams that are looking to make up for last year, the Pacers, the Thunder, have higher expectations than they did even a year ago when they kind of like burst onto the scene and kind of shocked everybody in recent seasons. So I think these are going to be some really fun NBA playoffs, especially as the series, each individual series gets tighter and tighter. So we'll keep up with it, and hopefully the Pistons continue to keep the conversation centered around themselves as well and pick up a couple of dubs in the Garden like they have already this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back, it's going to be time to talk a little bit about the Detroit Tigers, who have had a strong start to the season, but first L that they've caught in a while in a series since the first series of the season. We'll discuss it next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. We're back here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. Before we talk about Tigers, a big thing happened just down the road from Battle Creek. It's the Western Michigan Broncos, WMU, picking up their first team national championship since a back-to-back national championship was won in 1964 and 1965 by the cross-country team, I believe, for the Broncos. Final Frozen Four appearance and a national championship in hockey coming back to Kalamazoo. Big dub for the boys in brown and gold, who had to get through Denver and Boston in the Frozen Four to win it all, which says a lot, man. Like that's like Boise State going through Ohio State and Alabama to win a football national championship, isn't it? So hats off to them, man. That is wildly impressive, and congratulations are certainly in order.
Yeah, I mean, the game Saturday night was great. I happened to catch it with some friends, and it was electric. The first 2 periods, let me tell you, were tight. The game was tight. And there were a lot of close calls, a lot of really good saves, a lot of pipes hit throughout the night, some questionable calls on both sides from referees. It was a fun game to watch. And then the third period happened. And the Broncos decided that they weren't going home without a trophy. They didn't fly all the way to St. Louis for nothing. They said, we flew to St. Louis for a national championship, and we're coming home national champions. And they blew that third period open, scored a couple quick ones within the first 8 to 10 minutes, and then they were able to get a couple empty netters to end things out. And then 6-2 win in the national championship doesn't just say you won. That says dominance. That said that you went in and decided how the game was going to go, and you were the one that was in control for most of that game. And it was just fun to watch. And as a native of Kalamazoo, seeing Western Michigan be successful in anything is awesome. But also, as someone who went to Western Michigan hockey games in middle school and high school, through college, now even post-college, it's awesome to see a team that I have been a fan of and have supported for so long finally get to the glory land that they've been searching for.
No doubt about it. Anytime it's a mid-major school pulling off something for the first time it's always hella cool. But especially for a team like Western Michigan, who I think a lot of people acknowledge, Western Michigan's one of those programs that a lot of more people know about than you might think if you've lived your entire life in like Southwest Michigan. People all across the country know who Western Michigan is. Like they're aware of, some action things, whether it's football related or another sport. People are aware of Western Michigan. So, the whole, I think a lot more of the country was rooting on the Broncos than maybe we may have, had a true understanding of, but nonetheless. Big congrats to the guys at WMU and Kalamazoo. All right, let's talk Tigers. DJ, I know last week we finished the conversation kind of talking about what do the Tigers need to do to earn some respect. Well, ESPN's power rankings this week had them moved up from 12 to number 9 as the team is now, as of us talking on a Friday before noon, they have not had game 2 against the KC Royals. Detroit is on top of the AL Central at 11-8, and after losing the series against the Milwaukee Brewers, that is now done and over with because the Royals have fallen 6-1. Bats were hot. Riley Green, 3 hits, 2 RBIs, and Spencer Torkelson had 2 RBIs himself. Toss in Kerry Carpenter, and you were talking about some really hot bats for the Tigers. They have been able to put up a lot of points so far this season, though 5-0 shutout in game 2 against the Brewers, 5-1 loss in game 3. There's still some things to be aware of. Not everything is peaches, sunshine, and rainbows in Detroit, but plenty of reason to feel really good. And now a 4-game series against the Royals to help with their standings there in the AL Central. It's a good time for the Tigers, especially with the bats being as active as they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, as long as the bats are able to get going, I think the pitching will catch up. You got to keep the bats going, and for the most part, they've done that. They died a little bit up in Milwaukee, and the Brewers were able to come out with a couple victories. But if my screen will load here, and I was right, I just wanted to make sure my memory had me there. The Pistons are still first in the Central. They're 11-8, and they're pacing greatly. They're playing at a great pace at home at 6-1, and they're only 2 games off of 500 on the road. They have a plus 19 score differential for runs right now. Batting in 87, opposed to only giving up 68. So, and 6-4 in the last 10. I'm not upset with any of those metrics. I think it's the beginning of the season, and to have this kind of play is just a good sign. I think that if you can maintain similar play to this, there can be some slight up and downs, but you kind of almost want to plateau for a while and then look to advance again, maybe in a month or so. You just don't want burnout. It's tough with a 182 game season, so many rotations and things like that. It's hard to stay consistent the entire time. So if they can just kind of do what they can to not let the drops be too low and not let the highs be too high, I think that the Pistons can the Tigers can find a nice momentum for them that works. It really sucks to see Lorenzen pick up another loss this year. I feel like he wouldn't have 3 of them already if he was still on the Tigers, but that is our fault and not his. We let him go in a trade to the Phillies a couple seasons ago and all that jazz. But yeah, it's nice to see that the bats are there, because the pitching and defense is not where it was last year, but it's still good enough to where if you're batting in 3, 4, 5, 6 runs a game, you're going to win.
I mean, there's been a few games where it's been there. I mean, you've got the 6-1 win over Kansas City, 9-1 win over Milwaukee, 4-0 shutout, 5-0 shutout against New York, 6-2 win against New York. The pitching has certainly been there, and not always when it's Scooball out there. I mean, remember, Scooball started the season 1-2. He's just now back to 500. You expect that he's probably going to get back above 500 on Easter Sunday. 1:40 is the set time for first pitch there. Scooball takes the mound on Easter Sunday at Comerica Park to close out that 4-game series against Kansas City, which, let's be honest. I mean, I think the anticipation is that the Tigers will win this series, especially if game one is anything to go off of, which it isn't always. You'd think after going 9-1 against Milwaukee, things would have ended differently out there in Wisconsin. But nonetheless, next week is going to be a pretty significant week, if for no other reason than because Monday through Wednesday is going to be a gauntlet for the Tigers. Flaherty, Olsen, and Job will be on the mound in that order as the Tigers host what is now ranked as the number one team in baseball. Not that I'm so sure that I agree with that. Last I checked, Shohei Ohtani still plays in Los Angeles for the Dodgers, and that skews a lot of metrics. But nonetheless, ESPN, in their most recent power rankings, did name the San Diego Padres as the number one team in Major League Baseball, and that's who the Tigers have up next after they get done with the Royals. I mean, that's a hell of another test, but at least this one's at home as compared to that opening series against the Dodgers on the road.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that if we can finish out this series against the Royals with a couple more wins, one that'll keep us in nice pace with the Central and it'll keep us atop of that, where this is a Central series. So we do want to win every AL Central game that we can. That's important. But also, look at the company that the Tigers are in right now at their current record. 11-8. They're sitting amongst the 12-7 Yankees, the 11-8 Blue Jays, the 10-10 Red Sox. But that also includes the 12-7 Rangers, the 12-7 Mets, the 11-8 Phillies, 12-9 Cubs, 10-9 Brewers, 15-4 Padres, 14-6 Dodgers, 13-6 Giants, 12-7 Diamondbacks. I feel
Hold
bad.
on, you just named almost the entire NL West.
I was just going to say, I feel terrible for the Rockies who are in the NL West and are just getting destroyed at 3-15. I think they're the worst team in baseball.
They don't have any other choice.
I mean, when you give the White Sox a chance to not be the worst team in baseball, I feel bad for you.
Oh my God, the Pirates too. They are minus 51.
I mean,
on the scoreboard.
The Pirates are 8-12 though, so they're not doing terrible. They're hanging in there.
Well, that's because they get to win a game every once in a while when Paul takes the mound.
Hey, it don't matter. 3-15 and 4-14 is a lot worse than 8-12.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Disgruntled Pirates guy over here can't even enjoy having a generational pitcher on your squad. Because the Pirates don't spend any money. Listen, that's at least one aspect here that I think might get a little bit overlooked when it comes to the Tigers. They did spend a little bit of money this offseason to make sure that they were going to be just a hair better and see where things were going to go. But also like the homegrown talent too. Like, when you're talking Carpenter, when you're talking, Skubal, like seriously, like it's a young core around here. So like there's still plenty of room to grow. Like I mentioned last week, a lot of the main contributors on the Tigers are below 30 years old, which is markedly impressive, especially when you're being this successful this quickly, or I should say this early on in the season. So that San Diego game is going to be a significant test, but I think really and truly almost every series is a significant test because, that Milwaukee series certainly winnable. They didn't win it. So how do you learn from that? Well, you come back and you beat Kansas City 6-1 in game one. You know you got 3 more games and they're all at home. How do you finish that out on a holiday weekend and then transition into playing one of the best teams in baseball? It's a fun little ride here we've got with the Tigers. And I think they might just surprise a whole bunch of people in this state if they could keep stacking dubs against really good teams, and we're here for it. All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back, it will be time to talk about the NFL draft because that's next weekend. Oh boy, time is flying by in a cold spring in Michigan, but we'll get to the NFL draft, which is being held in Green Bay next week. We'll talk about that next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK app.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike. This is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
We're back here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. The NFL draft is just a week away. I'm excited, but I gotta say, I'm not quite as plugged in as I usually am, because I've got my girlfriend's graduation is like taking up that whole weekend. So I have no idea what's going on because I know I'm not going to be able to keep up with it. Also, I'm like detracted because the Steelers are going to take Shadur Sanders or some crap like that. It's going to ruin my whole weekend. That said, we're going to try to focus a little bit more on the Lions and the NFC North, which means DJ does get to talk about his team. But let's start with the Lions, man. They've got no other choice, right? Like, we're all in agreement. The Lions have got to get a pass rusher, somebody to pair with Aiden Hutchinson and to take some pressure off the back end of this defensive backfield, which has solid players, but they're constantly getting overworked because there's not enough pass rush to affect the quarterbacks, affect the rhythm and the timing of opposing offenses. I mean, that's what they've got to do. Do you think that we're in trade up situation, like trade up to go get a guy? Is it hang back, be conservative, get what comes to you? What would you do? With the knowledge that you have about this draft class, especially the edge rushers, what would you do if you're in Detroit's situation at pick number 28, knowing that's really the one thing you need?
I think you can be patient and just draft the one thing you need at 28. I think there's a handful of them in this draft, and I think the bigger piece is if you try and trade up, somebody's going to want something significant. And I don't think you really need to trade anything. I think you just need to go get the pieces that you need, and they're there. And the bigger thing is I don't think they took advantage of free agency well enough. I don't think they shopped hard enough for some of those guys that are out there. And obviously they still have some time to do that.
Those price tags might have been way too high.
There's a possibility they were. But then I say you go to some of your guys and you ask to reconstruct and things like that. If they really want to win, some of them may take a few million off. You know, I'm not saying a ton. But, you know, you can go to 3, 4, 5 guys, ask for 2-3 mil a piece. They might say, yeah. But those are just the kind of things I'm thinking is either you go and draft the guy at 28 because there will be guys left, or you go really hard in the time left in free agency and try and do something to grab one of those guys. But realistically, you don't have to trade up. And I think trading up would be a mistake because if you trade up, somebody's going to want something that I don't feel you should give away. Unless it's other picks. Like if they want more picks in this draft or a first in other years, cool. But if they're asking for players, I think you're in a pretty good spot to hold off and just go and get what you want.
Yeah, I wouldn't give up any players. If I'm the Lions, I don't care a lick about draft picks, future draft picks, none of that. Because I've got my young core signed. Like I've got all the guys that I believe I can win a championship with on my roster. What I don't have is an Abdul Carter. What I don't have is a Jalen Walker. What I don't have is a Michael Williams or a James Pierce Jr. or a Shamar Stewart, any of the top 5 pass rushers in this draft class who will all likely be gone before my team picks at 21, right? Like that, and the Lions are back at 28. Now, the Lions will probably be the first franchise to tell you that just because a guy gets drafted high does not mean jack. Does not mean that he is going to be great. Does not mean anything. But I trust this organization enough based off of recent success, especially when it comes to the draft, because holy cow have they been impressive there to make the right decision. So I'm not going to be the one to sit here and say this is what the Lions need to do. But I look at this draft class, especially on the edge, there are some, let's say, I don't want to say bargain bin, but there are some pass rushers that you can get at the back end of the first round, whether it's Mike Green out of Marshall or Jordan Birch out of Oregon or Nick Scourton, who was a little bit less productive than maybe you'd expected his last year at Texas A&M. He's more of a second round pick though. There are guys, but the history when it comes to that position is that the physical freaks get notified or recognized rather by the NFL, and they don't often miss. Like, edge rushers are hitting lately. Like, when teams know who the good ones are, they find them, they get them, and they work. Abdul Carter is that kind of guy. Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, and Shamar Stewart, in my opinion, are definitely those kind of guys. James Pierce Jr. certainly could be out of Tennessee. I advocate pretty strongly. Spend a first from next year and a second somewhere, and your first this year. Go up and get one of those guys, and you'll see the dividends pay off a lot quicker than if you just settle for a Mike Green, a Jordan Birch, a Nick Scourton, Josiah Stewart, JT Tuimoloau, and certainly you can still pick up those guys later because you need depth on the defensive line, period. But as a fan of a team that likes to settle and sit and wait and see what comes to them in the draft and has consistently picked between 16 and 28 over the past 7 years, don't do it. That's how you end up with Kenny Pickett's on your roster. Go get the guys you like.
Hold on. Don't compare.
Just saying.
Don't compare the Lions and their great GMs of the past couple of years to that.
Right.
And you're also talking to someone who also in the NFC North has a horrible GM. If you sit and wait, things are there.
We call that a setup, ladies and gentlemen.
Good things are there. You just have to make the right decision and get the good thing. Our GMs haven't been good at getting the good thing.
Oh, well, hold up. My current GM has been fine. It was the guy before him that didn't retire in time.
Let me tell you, Packers need a new GM bad because he refuses to get the right guy.
Yeah.
At the right time. I won't say that anybody he's gotten is necessarily the wrong guy, but it wasn't the guy we needed at that time. Getting Aaron Rodgers back off an injury when you know he's about to have like the greatest season of his life, not the time to go draft another quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
Maybe you draft him second, third, fourth round. Okay, whatever. First round? Are you crazy? I'm going to answer yes, he is. By the way, he's insane. But I think the Lions are in a much better scenario than that, and their fans can feel confident knowing that they've made great general manager moves both in the draft and trading wise over the last couple of years.
Oh, I mean, they have been fantastic. And especially when you compare to what's happening across the rest of the NFC North, minus maybe Minnesota. I think Minnesota's done a pretty good job recently. But let's talk about your Packers. I mean, it's 2025 and the Packers need a corner despite taking first round corners several times over the past several years, as well as having Jair Alexander on the roster, though who knows how much longer that's going to last, which we've been saying for years. What's going on in Green Bay? You guys pick at 23. I mean, what are you hopeful for out of your team?
A number one receiver.
Y'all are broken records out of Green Bay, I swear.
Because that's the only thing we ever really need.
If there was ever a year for the Packers to finally take a wide receiver in the first round, because literally it has not happened
since the year with DK and all those guys.
Well, no, they didn't take a first rounder that year either.
That's my point. We keep having opportunities and they keep looking right over it.
They haven't taken a first round wide receiver this side of the millennium.
Like ever.
If ever there was a year to do it, it's when the draft is in Green Bay. Right?
Just listen to us for the one time.
Is there one that sticks out to you? You're like, I want that guy to be a Packer. I mean, the Packers have pretty solid wide receivers, but like a true number one would be something. Is there somebody that you think fits that role?
Yeah, I really like T-Mac, but I don't think T-Mac's going to be available.
Be there 23.
Like the guys that I really like that are in that T-Mac conversation aren't going to be available, but I do think somebody who could slide to us is that Nash kid out of San Jose State. I think he has really good route running, very good hands, and he could be somebody who could slide to us and add to our already pretty good wide receiver room.
No doubt. Okay, well, we don't have time to get into the other two, but spoiler alert, the Chicago Bears are going to crap the bed, and the Minnesota Vikings are going to take a player that you didn't expect to be great, who's going to be great, because that's what those two teams do. So we'll see what happens. The Vikings obviously got to get some help around J.J. McCarthy as he prepares for his full first season, assuming that Aaron Rodgers doesn't go to Minnesota. Yeah, we still don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going to go, and his little interview with Pat McAfee didn't do me any favors. So thanks, Aaron Rodgers. I hope your personal life stuff gets sorted and everything's cool, but like play for the Steelers or don't, or get off the internet. All right, let's make our picks next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBC.
95.3 WBCK.
Here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK, ready to close this thing down. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're going to make our picks for the biggest games of the weekend that we can find. We're not going to do NBA playoff stuff just yet, maybe later down the road. Feels a little weird making some of those picks. Just put it that way, especially when the Pistons are in there. And, if there's any complaints, maybe we'll change, but you'd have to figure out how to contact us first. DJ, update us on the standings. How are we looking?
You won our split game last week between the Stallions and Renegades, so that pushes you back to a 2-game lead. As I went 3-3, you went 4-2. I'm at 32-22. You're comfortably 34-20.
Hey, that's not bad. I'll take that every day of the week. All right, let's get started. Let me get to the right week of the UFL because we're going to pick a lot of UFL games this week. UFC fight, and DJ's getting his way this week. We're going to do some lacrosse, but for good reason. Let's get started. UFL Saturday, 12:30, ABC ESPN Plus. Why wouldn't you want to watch this? The St. Louis Battlehawks are on the road to take on the Dallas Renegades. The Battlehawks, they are 1.5-point favorites in this game. Both teams 2-1. Significant matchup in the XFL side of the standings. DJ, who you got between the Battlehawks and the Renegades, who are from Arlington, not Dallas, but it's basically the same thing?
This one's tough. The Renegades have had an interesting start to their season. The main thing is they haven't been able to put up points outside of the 33 that they put on the Brahmas in a shellacking in week 1. Even last week in their win, last week in their loss, they only put up 9 points. The Battlehawks are one of the higher scoring teams in the league. I don't expect them to have any problems. Their one loss comes to the only undefeated team left in the UFL, the Defenders. So I'm going to trust the Battlehawks to come out with another victory.
Yeah, and the Defenders look really good. So I'm with you. I'm not going to go against the Battlehawks anyway. The Renegades need a better logo because that looks more like a D than an R, and there's no D in Arlington.
I say if it was Dallas, that'd be dope.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Arlington is literally right outside Dallas. It's a Dallas suburb, and the logo looks like a D. So now I'm just frustrated. And you know what? No team in the XFL has a cooler logo than the Battlehawks. So, I'm taking St. Louis. Of course I am.
That's going to get us to the only game on Sunday, April 20th. Hint, hint. 5 p.m. on Fox. The Brahmas will be heading over to D.C. to take on those Defenders. Do the 0-3 Brahmas have any chance of grabbing their first win of the year, or will the Defenders cruise to victory and remain undefeated?
Listen, I'm going to tell you this right now.
By the way, line is at 7.5 for D.C., and the over-under is 37.5.
Well, listen, first of all, stop betting overs in the UFL. Don't do it. If you bet the over in the UFL, call that number at the bottom of your app. But first of all, I assure you that whatever Dwayne The Rock Johnson is doing on Sunday night in Las Vegas is going to be infinitely more entertaining than whatever product his namesake team in the UFL is going to do against the Defenders. The Defenders are going to decimate the Brahmas, and it's not going to be pretty. DC big. You can take those 7.5-point favorites. Maybe bump them up a little bit because you'll be all right.
Absolutely. I have no trust in a team that's 0-3 and that has, let me check notes, lost a game 33-9. They also lost 26-9. And then they lost last week 26-23, which now has me scared for the Panthers, who were only able to beat them by 3 and gave up a lot of points compared to what they've been putting up on the year. But that doesn't change my thoughts for this week. I'm definitely going to take the Defenders to remain undefeated.
Minus 44 on the scoreboard. I think what we've learned is that the USFL side is a lot tighter, like as far as like competition, like those teams are a lot closer together. The XFL is a huge gap between the top 3 teams and literally everybody else in the league. So, could be very interesting. Let's get to one more UFL game from me. That's going to be the Stallions and the Roughnecks. The Stallions are 2-1. They are on the road in Houston to take on the Roughnecks, who are 1-2. Birmingham is a 7.5-point favorite. The Stallions looking to get near the top of the USFL and really, I think, honestly, probably solidify themselves and Michigan as the playoff teams for the USFL this early on in the season. It's possible, but they got to win. DJ, who you got, the Stallions or the Roughnecks?
I think I'm going to take the Stallions. I think that point that you just made about them having to pretty much keep pace with the Panthers to kind of make sure that they get a playoff spot. I think losing this game to the Roughnecks not only makes you 2-2, but also hands them a tiebreaker over you at this moment. Not something you're really looking forward to. I think that motivates the Stallions to grab their 3rd win of the year.
Dope. I've got the Stallions as well, if I did not say that. So. I don't think I did.
That is the most hilarious pick of the year so far. We are going to jump over into the Octagon. We got a UFC fight night going down this weekend in Kansas City, Missouri at the T-Mobile Center. The main event is a welterweight event that you can see on ESPN2 or ESPN Plus. We got Ian Machado Gary standing at 15-1, taking on Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates at 21-6. Prates comes in at 6'1", 170 pounds, 31 years of age, 78 inches on the reach, a switch stance fighter as well, landing 4.39 significant strikes per minute. On the other side, Machado Gary, 6'3", 171, 27 in age, 74.5 inch on the reach. He's an orthodox fighter at 4.72 significant strikes per minute landed, and that's going to give them both just about 60% on the significant strike accuracy. 15-1 Gary versus 21-6 Prates. Who wins?
I think Gary might want to keep this one standing up. Well, first of all, did you list off the reach advantage that the 6'1" man has over the 6'3" man? Like that is mind blowing to me. Wow. I can't imagine myself having a disadvantage on reach against anybody shorter than me. Nonetheless, I think Gary's going to want to keep this one standing up. That 100% takedown accuracy is a little bit crazy. And the significant strikes advantage does go in Gary's favor. So, I think Gary wants to keep this one upright. It should be a showcase type match for him though. He's the favorite. He's the youngin'. Go in there and get the win. I'm going to stick with Gary on this one.
Yeah, this one's interesting though because he may have an accuracy of 100%, but he basically doesn't try to submit. He is a zero submission
ground
average.
and pound is still a thing.
So, absolutely.
You don't want to be. Look, I don't want this to come out wrong. You don't want to be close quarters on the ground with a Brazilian
absolutely not.
It's not a good idea.
Absolutely not. I agree with you. I think this is one where he's going to want to keep it standing up, and I think him having the slight weight advantage, and I think just he's in his prime. He's entering his prime at the age of 27. I think that is what's going to lead Gary to a victory this weekend.
Yeah, UFC Fight Night, young man versus a veteran. That's a showcase match in the main event. I think this is, let's see if Gary can get himself over WWE style type stuff. You know what I mean? Back to the baseball diamond. It's the first time. We're going to skip over the Kansas City series. It's 4 games, but one game has already happened and another one's going to happen, half the series is done before we get on the air. So instead, we're going to do the very daring thing. We're going to talk about that Tigers and Padres series. 3 games. First one up Monday night, 6:40 on Fox Sports 1. You can catch game 3 on the MLB network. But it's Flaherty, Vasquez on the mound in game 1, Olsen, Pivetta on the mound in game 2, and Job and Hart on the mound in game 3. All of these at Comerica Park. And for what it's worth, in game 1, the Tigers have a 54.6% shot of beating the team that ESPN ranked in their power rankings as the best team in Major League Baseball. Whether you agree with that or not, the Padres are damn good. Though most specifically at home, they're 3-3 on the road. DJ, who you got for the 3-game series between the Tigers and the Padres in the Motor City?
I'm gonna be a homer for a weird reason here. The 6-1 record is really drawing me. I want to take the Padres because they have been phenomenal this year, but 3-3 on the road is quite scary for one. But 6-1 on the road 6-1 at home just screams the Tigers are going to win in Comerica a lot this year. So I'm going to take them to do the same against the Padres.
Yeah, This is full transparency. This is strategy. There's no reason for me to pick against the Tigers if you're going to pick the Tigers. But it's also because I agree with the points that you're making. The Tigers are really good at home, and so are the Padres. But the Padres are about 1,200 miles away from home, and they have been suspect at best so far early on in the season. Very small sample size, 3-3 on the road. I think the Tigers can squeeze out 2 wins, and to call my shot, I think that is guaranteed game 1, and I think game 2 could probably be theirs as well on Wednesday. So I think they got it. I'm going to stick with the Tigers in this series.
That takes us over to our last game of the week, getting a little special right into my land. We're going to be talking some lacrosse this week. Number 6, Ohio State, making the trip up north to Ann Arbor, UM Lacrosse Stadium, to take on the University of Michigan at 4 p.m. Michigan's 13th ranked in the country right now. They're both 3-1 in the Big Ten. They are fighting for the number 1 seed in the Big Ten to get that regular season conference title, but also the number 1 seed in the tournament, which gives you a bye as well. Something notable. Both teams do have a chance at a bye because the top 2 seeds get it, but it just depends on what happens around them in the rest of the Big Ten. Ohio State was on an 11-game win streak before dropping a game to Maryland 2 weeks ago. Michigan, their only loss in the Big Ten is to Penn State, who they've had struggles against in the regular season for the last couple of years. Ohio State has not beat Michigan in lacrosse in 6 years?
Oh, boy.
7 years? It's been some time now. Can Ohio State get back over the hump, only having 2 losses on their record so far this year? Or will Michigan continue to dominate over Ohio State like they've done in almost every other sport this year?
I'm gonna do the homer thing. You mean to tell me you already got one for the thumb, as Auburn used to say at Alabama? No, you got to put up the index finger too, get that smoking gun, and get to 7. I'm going to stick with the Wolverines.
I'm going to go with Michigan here too. I'm being a total homer. I like everything about Michigan with Pace Billings on the defensive end, and Hunter Taylor in net, all the way down to Bo Lockwood, Ryan Cohen, and the rest of that offense. They've done an amazing job of putting up goals, and there's a reason that they've won the Big Ten tournament the last 2 years. I don't think this year is any different. I think they win the regular season and the conference tournament. Go Blue, go Victors. Stick it to those dudes down south.
Hey, and listen, if you haven't been out to Ann Arbor, I mean, it's a pretty nifty little field that they play their field sports at. You know, it's field hockey and all those other sports, as well as lacrosse. It's a nice, intimate little setting right there. So
no, that's no longer.
Oh, they're not playing over there anymore?
They built a lacrosse only stadium in 2018.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
I've just seen them practicing over there.
Yes.
Okay.
You probably have seen them practicing over on the old field. But
yeah. The Stephen Ross over there by the hockey arena.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, I don't know what the other stadium really looks like, but hey, go
it's
support
also
them.
really cool.
Yeah, I imagine it's pretty cool if it was built in 2018. But yeah, go support them, man. Lacrosse is cool, and the Michigan Wolverines are incredible. And hey, anytime you beat Ohio State, take it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Did you already run down?
We're the same down the board.
Okay.
Battlehawks, Stallions, Defenders, Michigan, Gary, and the Tigers.
Nice. All right, let's get out of here. Fantastic weekend. It is 420 weekend, so if you're celebrating Easter, have fun with that. And I don't mean that derogatory. I mean, like, enjoy your time with your family. If it is 420, just be safe. Don't be an idiot. Don't smoke and drive and all those different types of things. But also enjoy your time. I'm going to enjoy my partaking in front of a screen, watching WrestleMania, being a kid again, man. So enjoy your weekend. It's going to be a fun one. We'll see you again next weekend, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. for more Mitten Madness. For Da'Jzon Hughes, I'm Jacob Harrison. Y'all take it easy. We'll see you.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to run it back? Stream Mitten Madness on demand on the WBCK app. Sponsored by AirwayCashforJunkCars.com.